Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Today we are going to learn a new chapter, User Interface Input and Output Design. We will explore this chapter based on the following objective and also these objectives. User Interface Design is the first task in the system's design phase of the SDLC. This task is very important because everyone wants a system that is easy to learn and use. Basically, this topic will be divided into three sections: user interface design, output design, and input design. Output design focuses on user needs for screen and printed forms of output, while user interface design stresses user interaction with the computer, including input design and procedure. Although output design involves a separate set of physical design issues, it is an integral part of a larger concept called a user interface. A user interface describes how users interact with a computer system and consists of all the hardware, software, screens, menus, functions, output, and features that affect two-way communications between the user and the computer. When developing all the system, analysts typically design all the printed and screen output first, then work on the input necessary to produce the results. The traditional system or older system often use process control screens that allow the user to send command to the system, then simply transform input data into structured output. This figure shows a processing-centered information system model. Nowadays, a modern approach, most information systems use a user-centered system. In this approach, the distinction blurs between input, output, and the interface. In this figure, shows the user-centered information system model. In this approach, users work with a varied mix of input, screen output, and the data queries as they perform their day-to-day job functions. Those tasks require interaction with the computer system directly. So, because of these matters, the user interface is a vital element in the system design phase. User interface design requires an understanding of human-computer interaction and user-centered design principle. User interface design requires an understanding of human-computer interaction and user-centered design principles. Human-computer interaction, HCI, describes the relationship between computers and people who use them to perform business-related tasks. HCI concepts apply to everything from PC desktops to global networks. The HCI started in the 1980s with user typing complex commands in green text on a black screen like a command prompt environment. Then came the graphical user interface, GUI. The GUI has brought about significant improvements in HCI because it uses icons, graphical objects, and pointing devices. Today, designers strive to translate user behavior, needs, and desires into interface that users don't really notice as long as this strategy can achieve the main objective of HCI, to create a user-friendly design that is easy to learn and use. Industry leaders Microsoft and IBM both devote considerable resources to user interface research. Microsoft, for example, through its Redmond's lab, the engineers observe volunteers who participate in software usability studies, while IBM, through its Almaden Research Center, conducts usability testing and studies human-computer interaction. IBM believes that the user interface evolution will lead to computers that are truly consumer products that are simple and natural. Computers will function in a friendlier, more predictable way. Interface will be based on the perspective of a user. IBM usability expert Dr. Claire Mary Carrot states that in this new computer age, the customer is not only right, the customer has right. These are the user rights suggested by Dr. Claire Mary Carrot, the IBM usability expert. Although IT professionals have different views about interface design, most would agree that good design depends on the following basic principles. First, understand business. Second, maximize graphical effectiveness. Third, provide the system's users. Fourth, think like a user. Fifth, user models and prototype. Sixth, focus on usability. Seventh, invite feedback. And last one is document everything. Now we will overview each principle as stated before. First, understand the business. The interface designer must understand the underlying business functions and how the system supports individual, departmental, and enterprise goals. The overall objective is to design an interface that helps users to perform their jobs. It is a good starting point to analyze the functional decomposition diagram (FDD) because it can provide a checklist of user tasks that you must include in the interface design. Second is maximize graphical effectiveness. A well-designed interface can help users learn a new system rapidly and be more effective. In a graphical environment, a user can display and work with multiple windows on a single screen and transfer data between programs. If the interface supports data entry, it must follow the guidelines for data entry screen designs. Third is think like a user. A system analyst should understand user experience, knowledge, and skills level. To develop a user-centered interface, the designer must learn to think like a user and see the system through a user's eyes. The interface should use terms and metaphors that are familiar to users. Fourth, it uses models and prototypes. From a user's viewpoint, the interface is the most critical part of the system design because it is where he or she interacts with the system. An interface designer should obtain as much feedback as possible as early as possible. You present initial screen design to user in the form of a storyboard, a sketch that shows the general screen layout and design. User input can be obtained in interviews, questionnaires, observation, and usability metrics. Next, focus on usability. The user interface should include all tasks, commands, and communications between user and the information system. Refer to this figure. This figure shows the main option for student registration system. Each screen option here, such as register students, leads to another screen with more options. The objective is to offer a reasonable number of choices that a user easily can comprehend. Too many options on one screen can confuse a user, but too few options increase the number of submenu levels and complicate the navigation process. An effective strategy is to present the most common choice as a default, but allow the user to select other options. The next principle is invite feedback. It is important to monitor system usage and solicit user suggestions. You can determine if system features are being used as intended by observing and surveying users. The last one is you should document all screen designs for later use by programmers. It is important to design a user interface that is easy to use, attractive, and efficient. When you create a user interface, you should follow the following guidelines. First, design a transparent interface. Second, create an interface that is easy to learn and use. Third, enhance user productivity. Fourth, make it easy for users to obtain help or correct errors. Fifth, minimize input data problems. Sixth, provide feedback to users. Seventh, create an attractive layout and design. And last one, use familiar terms and image. Good user interface design is based on a combination of ergonomics, aesthetic, and interface technology. Ergonomics describes how people work, learn, and interact with computers. Aesthetic focuses on how an interface can be made attractive and easy to use. And interface technology provides the operational structure required to carry out the design objectives. You can consider the following points to design a transparent interface. Facilitate the system design objectives rather than calling attention to the interface. Create a design that is easy to learn and remember. Design the interface to improve user efficiency and productivity. Write commands, actions, and system responses that are consistent and predictable. Minimize data entry problems. Allows user to correct error easily. Create a logical and attractive layout. The interface should be easy to learn and use. To make it easy to learn and use, all controls buttons, and icons must be labeled clearly. Select only those images that user can understand easily and provide on-screen instructions that are logical, concise, and clear. Look at this figure. All control buttons do not have an obvious meaning, while this figure, only the last message is easy to understand. Both figures shows inefficient of the interface and difficult for user to learn and use. Besides that, you may assist the user by showing all commands in a list of menu items. It is good to make the interface easy to navigate or return to any level in the menu structure. To enhance user productivity, you can use the following tips. First, organize tasks, commands, and functions in groups that resemble actual business operation. Second, create alphabetical menu lists. Third, provide shortcuts so experienced users can avoid multiple menu labels. Fourth, use default values if the majority of values in a field are the same. Next, use a duplicate value function that enables users to insert the value from the same field in the previous record. Provide a fast find feature that displays a list of possible values. And the last one, use a natural language feature that allows user to type commands or requests in normal English phrases. Next, make it easy for users to obtain help or correct errors. You can consider the following strategies for helping users in obtaining help or correct errors. To minimize input data problems, you can create input masks or use data validation rules, display event-driven messages and reminders, establish a list of predefined values that users can click to select, build in rules that enforce data integrity. The interface also should provide feedback to users. For this purpose, the system should display messages at a logical place on the screen. Besides that, alert users to lengthy processing time or delay, allow messages to remain on the screen long enough for users to read them, let the user know whether the task or operation was successful or not, provide a text explanation if you use an icon or image on a control button, and use messages that are specific, understandable, and professional. Next is creating an attractive layout and design. You can apply the following strategies for this purpose. You also should use familiar terms and images in the system interface. These are a few tips that you can implement in your interface designs. The designer may add control features to make the efficient system interface. The designer can include many features such as menu bar, toolbar, and command button. They may also use dialog box, text box, and toggle button. Besides that, the designer also can use a list box, drop-down list box, option button, chat box, or calendar control. Okay, this chapter will continue in the next video. The next video will discuss input and output designs.